Welcome to WHACHACHA'S Wargaming Journey. My name is Sweetness WHACHACHA, and this is a show where I take a three-pronged approach to my hobby, which is to learn, to game, and to craft. And so here we are with a pretty quick episode, I think. And this one is episode 7, Bases and Magnets. So I have a few decisions to make, the tyranny of small decisions here. And one of them is, in general, when you hobby or when you're doing like these sort of war games, people like to spend a lot of time making some really cool bases. So they might have a soldier and they might put rocks and grass and stuff so it looks really cool. And or you might have different terrain that you're trying to go with your whole army or whatever. And I don't really, it looks amazing. You know, if you look at like it's sort of just like a diorama. You look at that as a whole piece and it looks pretty incredible. You know, or like you might have a Warhammer figure standing on a bunch of skulls or something, and that's pretty cool. But to me, as a practical, like I love the idea of spending a lot of time, as much time, if not more, probably more, honestly, on the terrain that you're going to be playing in. I don't really like the idea of, you know, this guy's walking around with a tree next to him everywhere he goes. He goes into a building, you know, or onto a spaceship, and he's just carrying this tree with him everywhere with a bunch of grass. I don't. That's a suspension of disbelief that sort of takes me out of it a little bit. So what I've always done, and I know this is not a popular way to do it, this is just a way that I like to do it, is I always put things on plastic, clear plastic bases. So if you're standing in the street, you can see the street lines, and it makes sense. It's like they're standing on the street. If they go into a building or they're standing in a field, under their feet is going to match that because they're not carrying the rocks and things around with them. So that's what I've always done. Now, it's a little bit different here, though, and this is kind of a nice opportunity for me because in this game, you don't go inside of buildings. Now, I did see there is a rule that said something about entering buildings, and I think I'm having a hard time nailing that particular rule down for Flames and War, but there's no map portion. There's no map portion. Like, you're not going to like have your guys all inside of a building shooting at each other. And because of that, that kind of creates a nice, opportunity for me to have fun basing where I've not really done that before, and probably won't do that in the future. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking about. At this point, though, I'm realizing that a lot of the units are the same. Now, their uniforms might be different if you have like a winter outfit or a desert outfit or whatever. But I'm starting to consider, and it's not just for infantry, like the guns and things, they have infantry around them and they have different item, accoutrement like shells and boxes and things. And so I'm really starting to consider magnetizing them so that I can add them to different bases. And then, like if I want to go from say the desert, which is the environment I'm playing in now, or the theater of war I'm working on now, and I want to change theaters, it might be kind of cool that I don't have to, as a monetary consideration, it's a pretty big deal. And then I could have kind of the best of both worlds. So I'm kind of thinking about that for the infantry. And I'm thinking about getting into that basing aspect. Now, Flames of War does sell some different bases for urban or for, different kind of theaters of war. So that's a kind of a cool thing. So I'm thinking about that right now as to what to do with that. Now, magnets is a great segue into what I'm going to talk about next, which is that when I built all my little tanks and things, now certain, like the M10s, done. They're just completely done. The Shermans, completely done. Some of those units, tanks and things are completely done, the Jeeps and things. But with my Panzers, you have 3 different barrel options. And so magnetizing can be a very useful tool. And so as an example showing here, like this is Juggernaut that I made. That's from Atomic Mass. It's an X-Men character, and he comes with a regular closed fist, or he comes with a fist holding a traffic signal so that he can smash people with them. But if I choose to put him in a different terrain, I'd like to not have him holding that because it would be out of place. So by using a great little tool, which is this drill here, which comes with tiny drill bits, you can drill out a piece in either side and then add a tiny rare earth magnet, which is quite strong and strong enough for this plastic that wants to nest inside of itself anyway. And so you have both those options. So what I've thought of is like, hey, can I do that with these Panzer tanks? Now, there's a couple things here. It would be, now I had mentioned before that you get about, like a huge quantity of extra pieces with every model that you get, which is frustrating in a way because, you can't do anything with it, which say la vie. But to mention, like I didn't mention this in the episode that I talked about cutting all this stuff out and the frustrations with this, but I keep mentioning Atomic Mass and Marvel Crisis Protocol, but that's the game I played previously to this. And you'll get like 2 tankers and a truck, and then like the truck itself, you can put one of 2 things on. But you can never reach disparity. You can, if you buy another pack, you're still gonna have an extra piece, like always. And it's kind of wasteful to me that like you have option A or option B, but 25% of that box or 30% of that box you can never use, which is very frustrating in a way. But anyway, I wish in those extra parts that they had given a lot, like the right extra parts, because if you can look here, putting the barrel and the front piece together, I could very easily glue those pieces together, drill a quick little magnet in both spots, and then be done with it, and it would look fantastic. But instead, you only get one of the front pieces. So I tried to drill out, as you can see, a little hole in the side in each of them, and then put them together that way. But you can see the magnet a little bit, so when I prime them, I'll have to do that so you can see, so that'll be erased. But it also pulls stronger on one side, leaving the barrel cockeyed. So I'm not sure what to do. I'm still thinking on this one. Either, I feel I have 2 options. Either one, I can drill 2 holes on either side and connect them that way, or I can just glue some barrels on and just have some short barrel and some long barrel, some medium barrel, and just deal with it that way. I do like things to be accurate. I like if I'm fielding a certain unit, I would love to be able to switch those barrels out, so that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have short barreled ones. Okay, I'll switch those out real fast. And so that's really the best thing to do. But I don't know, I guess I've considered also trying to mold that tiny piece and make some extras so that I can make a full unit. But I don't think that's gonna work out. That's a whole extra headache that I don't necessarily need. So still thinking on that one. But it is a nice option to have in the back pocket. Now, what I did do as well, though, was to magnetize the hatches. So that's very easy to do. And so it's kind of neat because you just put a little glue on, and then you put the magnet on the one side, and you drag the other magnet to exactly where you want it, and then you're done, which is kind of cool. So I can add on closed hatch, or I can add a commander on, depending on how I want to break those units up. So just gives me some options. I don't ever need to use that. I can still, just glue the hatches all closed, or just glue them on, some closed and some not closed, and just, but I like having that option. I did that before I closed the bottom of the turret up. The American tanks, luckily, don't have that problem. The only one was the Stuarts. Okay, so that takes care of the crafting, and now I'm going to talk about a little bit of gaming, which isn't actually tabletop gaming, but this is a little bit of a video game gaming based on World War II. So I'm not a huge video gamer. I play like one game, and then I love it, and then I play 50 more, and I don't care about them. But I used to play Call of Duty pretty casually, and if you're unfamiliar with that, generally there's eight or so people on each team, and you just end up fighting each other in a small setting, and whoever gets to the 75 kills first wins, whichever team. But there are some scenario-based ones like capture the flag or defending certain points and things like that, which can be kind of interesting. Anyway, this World War II version one has a very cool scenario in it, though. There's 3 different ones, Operation Neptune, there's a couple different operational ones. And what's different about this, which I found fascinating, and I'll tell you, for example, this particular one, which is a D-Day landing. One of the teams plays the Americans, and you get off the boats and you charge up. You try to charge up 2 different bunkers, and the idea is if you can get inside the bunker and kill everybody in that particular bunker and stay in there, you're getting this clock moving this sort of meter. And when the meter fills, you've captured that bunker. If you can do that to both bunkers, you have to build a ladder up to it. There's a couple different ways up to get in there, and you have to blow up some doors and things. But if you can get those 2 bunkers, then you win that part and you move on to the second part. And it's another similar type objective where you have to get in and destroy some radio equipment or whatever. And once you do that, you can move on to the third objective. And if you do that, then you win. The opposing side, the German player, all they have to do is keep you, hold off until reinforcements arrive, which is basically something like 5 minutes. And if they can do so before you capture any one of those points, they will win at either the first, second, or third bar. Doesn't matter. It's an instant win at that point. But what fascinates me about it is that you could sort of get your friends together and say, hey, what's our strategy? What kind of weapons are we going to take? Are we going to try to, you're going to try to snipe people out, or, are we going to try to rush both bases? Are we going to go through this way? Are we going to go through this way? Are we going to throw grenades in? And there's you can really do a lot of I like to think of it as metagaming. Before you even begin, you can kind of discuss a strategy, how you think you might try to win each of those points. And I thought that was really, really interesting and really, really cool. I don't have enough friends that would play. Everybody needs the same gaming system. Everybody needs the same game, and everybody'd have to have the same amount of time and interest. And sadly, I don't think I have any of those boxes marked. But I did think it was really kind of an interesting take on that sort of online multiplayer game that is very, very popular these days. But that's a little bit of the gaming that I got, and I just played with some computer simulated bots or whatever. But it was still pretty interesting, I thought. And lastly, I did do some more. I've been doing a lot of listening to things and even more naval battles. This one comes from Monty Mayer again, who I found very enjoyable so far. Savo Island, I think I mentioned last episode, Battle of Savo Island that he did. But this time he did a 3-parter on that one that I listened to about the Battle of Midway. Now, I already was aware of I'd say broad strokes of the Battle of Midway, but this was about just play, but going through the really interestingly telling you about the Japanese perspective and then telling you about the Americans' perspective, so that you can have these problems, as you go, and you can kind of think what would I do in this instance? Because there's some very big decisions to be made at every point in that battle, and it's very, very interesting to put yourself in those shoes and to weigh the options and things. A very, very well done way of doing that. But I tried. This series gave me goosebumps. Now, I was already aware of the Yorktown, and this, I didn't know everything about the Yorktown, but this thing, just listening to it, and I got goosebumps, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, I just thought it was amazing. I was so excited about this 3-part thing. It was just so exhilarating to learn about history in this way, and to fill in some of those gaps. And I remember trying, because again, having had some knowledge about the New York Town prior to this, but not having the full story, I was trying to explain this to my wife, and I was like, how am I going to explain this to her? It's like trying to explain why something in the season finale, was so impressive. The character got shot by this other character, and then you have to explain all the backstory. And needless to say, she was not very interested. But if you don't know anything about Battle of Midway, what a gem this 3-parter was. Oh my God, it was so interesting. But yeah, Yorktown all the way, fantastic. And I also, I'm still looking for some good Rommel books. I've been doing a little research on trying to find something good, and finding some good Desert War books. There's very few, actually. The one I find continually is the one I've read already, Army at Dawn. And so, still a little bit feeling things out there. But that's going to end this episode.